Hey everyone, I'm HoldenOnHere, and today I wanted to talk about everybody's favorite topic, childhood trauma. So in particular, childhood traumatic fears that at least I had. I've talked about it a lot on the Time to Grind channel, especially since, I do some horror content every now and then, right? Horror gaming content and stuff. And I thought it'd be a fun little HoldenOnHere video, right? Especially since this week's just been super crazy. Didn't have time to do a whole big giant stream for the HoldenOnHere, so just wanted to get something fun for you guys or something. I don't know, because growing up I was not the biggest fan of horror, right? I didn't like horror movies, I didn't like horror games, and in fact I hated haunted houses, and I've only been to 2 haunted houses in my entire life, and both times I was technically forced. The first time I was a literal kid. I was probably like 11 or 12 or something, and my dad forced me and my sister to go with some other family friends for some Halloween haunted house, and it was terrible. I hated it. And then I went to another haunted house actually about 2 years ago when we were doing the Six Flags season pass, whatever, and Caitlin really wanted me to do a haunted house, and so I was like, okay, fine, but you got to do some of the big rides with me because she's a little bit scared of some of the big rides, and so I did it. So I mean, it was technically forced that time, but it wasn't fully willingly. But I've never been super into horror, and once I started dating Caitlin, horror movies are like her favorite, zombie movies her favorite, right? And so I started watching a couple more horror movies, started to appreciate them, especially at least like really good ones, like Talk to Me, I'm trying to remember some other Midsommar, and Beau is Afraid. It's not necessarily a horror one, but I can appreciate the first Resident Evil movie, really good. The rest of them, I don't know. And also wasn't really into horror games except for the occasional like Doki Doki Literature Club or something. And then my community on Time to Grind via the community game wheels slowly started playing more and more horror games, and now I actually kind of like making content on like horror games, like small indie horror games. But besides the fact, right, like I'm saying all of that because I'm not normally someone that likes being scared, right? Especially as a kid. I remember me and my sister growing up, we'd always try to scare each other, not because it was fun, but because we wanted to make the other each other suffer, I guess. There was a time where my sister Elise, she apparently tried to hide under my bed so I would walk in my room, and then she would grab my leg and scare me, and I think she might have scared me a little bit, but apparently her doing that, she thought I was going to retaliate against her, and for several years afterwards she was always scared about what was under her bed because she tried to scare me that one time, right? And fears can be irrational like that, right? And so I want to go over my about top 3 irrational fears that I had as a kid, and so if you guys watch the Time to Grind content, you might know some of these, but yeah. So the first irrational fear I had, and I'll say had because I feel like I've overall gotten over most of these, but the first irrational fear I had as a kid was of ants. Just the little creepy crawler things, right? And not spiders, not like other like wasps or bees or anything like that. I've never been stung by a bee or a wasp. I know some people have and they really hate it and they're scared of them, right? I haven't. I just know whenever there's a wasp or a bee, I'm just gonna not have any sudden movements, whatever. But I hate ants because growing up in my childhood house, right, every summer, like all of the neighborhood houses felt like we all had like ant infestations, right? And so I remember specifically, like, I don't know if you guys know or remember, if anyone's nostalgic for this, those like gaming chairs. I'm sure I'll put a picture of it, like those freaking gaming chairs that were really low on the ground, and you could kind of rock back and forth and stuff on them. I specifically remember as a kid, and I don't know how much of this is exaggerated because I was a kid, but I remember there being ants, and they would like, I would be like trying to game on my PlayStation 2, sitting on the ground on that thing, and the ants would then crawl up the chair, and then I would like go jump over to the couch, right? And then I remember the ants crawling up the couch, and then I remember like trying to go to bed, right? And I don't know if this was just like some of my nightmares or if it did happen. I remember like ants crawling up the wall like next to my bed. That might have been me just having nightmares. I don't don't really remember. Or like finding them in my bed sheets. This I specifically remember. I remember one time I had like some apple juice or white grape juice or something. I used to really like white grape juice as a kid. But I had it on the counter in a cup. And I must have left it out for 30 minutes or an hour. I came back to it, tried to drink some. There were all these like things in it. And then I look and there's just like 30 or 40 ants in the cup, right? And just not good. And so for years and years and years and years, probably over a decade, right, I was terrified of ants, right? If we were outside, and I remember going to a summer camp with Matthew, and I remember one time we were standing outside, and I guess he had been accidentally standing in a ant pile or something, and I mean like was so glad it wasn't me, but obviously like felt so bad on his behalf. Now obviously he's not irrationally scared of ants, so he had a very rational thing to that, right? It didn't freak him out too much, more than it would any other person. But yeah, ants, I slowly started to get rid of over them. I think it's probably good that I don't have any more ant infestations. When we got this new house, actually one of the rooms actually had ants coming up from underneath the carpet, and that was really stressful because it was like a brand new house, and I'm like, man, and I know it's just because like the ecosystems, they get displaced and stuff, but we killed about like 70 to 100 ants coming up through the carpet within the first couple days once we started noticing it. It was kind of crazy, but for the most part I would say I'm over that, right? Now the next irrational fear, this was probably the most debilitating one for me, and that like the beginning of the video, that is the fear of mirrors. And in particular, I'm gonna try to see if I can find it and maybe play it over what I'm talking about right now. But I saw as a kid, a trailer, maybe in the movie theater or something, a trailer for some horror movie. I think there's a million horror movies like this, where the whole gimmick, right, is there's someone and they're in the bathroom and they're looking at their mirror and they don't see anything, right? They're home alone, right? And then all of a sudden they see some figure behind them in the mirror, like coming to get them, and it's some terrifying ghost thing or some like murderer thing, right? And then they look behind them and there's no ghost, and then they look back in the mirror and it's getting closer and closer and closer. They look behind him, he's not there, right? All it took was one trailer as a kid, and literally for about 10 to 12 years of my life as a kid, I was so scared of mirrors, especially when I was like brushing my teeth or going to the bathroom, because so like what I would have to do is say the mirror was in front of me, right? I would literally like be brushing my teeth. Like this was for like 7-8 years of my life. Like I swear I would literally be putting my back to the wall, so the mirror was like on my left and like real life was on the right, and I would like brush. That's how I brushed my teeth for like 7 years or something like that, right? Every single time, because I was so scared of them, right? And I think that's part of the reason that like when we're watching horror movies, my least favorite type of horror movie to watch is anything to do with like ghost girls or even like supernatural a little bit, because I think that still is like preying on that a little bit. And I think I'm overall, I'm not really scared of mirrors anymore. I don't have to do that when I'm brushing my teeth or anything. I mean, obviously if I had like just watched a horror movie and then I'm like trying to go to bed and stuff, maybe I'm a little bit scared, but I'm mostly over it. But I don't have a ton of other details to talk about with that specific point, but it really was like probably the most irrational fear I had as a kid, because all it took was one movie trailer, right? And I mean, it was like 7 or 8 years of my life. I was so freaking scared. I had to like be so careful when I was like brushing my teeth and stuff. It haunted me, man. And every now and then I see that trope happen in other horror movies, because maybe a whole horror movie isn't built around that, right? But I feel like being creepy in mirrors is a very common horror thing. I mean, you have like the whole Bloody Mary thing where you say Bloody Mary multiple times into a mirror. That's a very common trope, but yeah, that one got me. Okay, and I saved the weirdest for last, and this is probably one, if you guys have been watching the Time to Grind channel, definitely know about. But the weirdest irrational fear I had, probably the least debilitating as well, was an irrational fear of swimming in 3D video games. Now, this also kind of was semi-adjacent to somewhat being scared of going out of bounds in video games, right? So say there was a glitch, I remember, where we could go out of bounds in this 007 game on the Wii, right? Or these Call of Duty campaign missions I used to play with Matthew, anytime you could like glitch out of the map, I always just felt this weird uneasy sense of like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, what if I get lost? Like, say you start falling, like real scared. But that then transcended, or like also went with swimming in 3D video games. And I remember I have a distinctive memory. I believe I was playing the Incredibles game, I think on the PlayStation 2. I had it on my Game Boy Advance as well, but that's not what I'm talking about. They had a 3D version. If you guys have seen the Incredibles or played the Incredibles game, right, there's a moment when the family is trying to go, save, I think Mr. Incredible, and they're flying on the jet, right? And then the jet gets blown up and they land in the ocean or whatever. Spooky stuff, right? And then you have to like swim. I don't think I made it any further in that game. I don't have any memories of that game past that moment, because I believe I probably got to that moment and then just had to stop playing entirely, right? I do remember somewhat recently, this was about 3-4 years ago, because this is still on me, right? The fear of ants, the fear of mirrors, I'm mostly over, right? But this irrational fear I have of swimming in 3D games definitely still exists, because we had a sub goal on the Time to Grind channel several years ago, and when we hit it, right, the thing was I was going to do a Subnautica Let's Play series, or at least start one, right? So we did about 3 or 4 episodes. I think it was 3. We did 3 episodes of Subnautica, and I will tell you right now, that was the scariest game I've ever played. Now, I know Subnautica is scary in general for people, right? Especially if you go to some of the other areas, or God forbid you download some of the mods, right? I've seen some TikTok videos of some of the mods, but no, I was literally just getting scared in the shallows, I think it was what it was called, or the generic area, right? There's some really funny moments, if you go check out the Time to Grind channel or those videos or whatever. And I now say I will not be playing any Subnautica games unless, a sugar daddy billionaire wants to come in and throw me $1 million. I'll take 500K too. But yeah, no, that one still affects me. And it's weird because it doesn't affect me in games that are like 2D, right? Like say you're swimming in Terraria, right? I mean, there might be some generally like somewhat scary things. These games like putting things in the water, piranhas, crocodiles, whatever. But it's just like the general act of swimming in a 3D game, right? And I've had some people ask me if I think thalassophobia is what it's called, right? The fear of like the ocean or being in water. And I think like it's a very rational thing. If anybody was actually just thrown in the middle of the ocean, right? Most people I think would be pretty scared, right? So I'm sure I would be scared in that regard, but I don't think I have like an irrational fear to the ocean, to bodies of water, anything like that, because I've gone as a kid, gone on people's boats, going on lakes, going on probably an ocean. I don't know. Right. And swimming or being on a cruise ship or being on I've never been on a cruise ship, but I've been on like those like tour boats, right? Where then, everyone's snorkeling and stuff like that. And that doesn't scare me. Right. I mean, if there are a bunch of sharks or, it's dark in the water. I mean, I can't even imagine being out in the water at nighttime, but it just, any video game is so freaking scary if I have to swim in a 3D game. That was the one that probably still gets me to this day. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really all of the like irrational fears I had, right? I really tried to think hard about, if I had any other irrational fears. Obviously had an existential crisis when I was like 13 or 14, whatever age I was, right? Normal fear stuff, right? Nothing crazy there, right? That's the whole point of the irrational fears versus rational fears. But yeah, I've been trying to think real hard about it, and I don't really think I have any other more weird fears. And like I said, being scared of the ants and mirrors. I'm not really scared of those anymore, to be honest. The one bonus round thing I'll give you is the most terrifying dream I ever had as a kid. It was a recurring dream. I don't know why. And I had this dream where, once again, I don't understand irrational. See, I guess this fits with this video because it was not a rational. Like, I would have nightmares of, you know, murderers or scary things, right? And those obviously make sense why they're scary. But I had a recurring dream, probably about 20 to 30 times growing up as a kid. I don't think I've had this for probably half a decade or a decade. And I would have this dream where it was almost like those games of Brick Breaker, right? Where there'd be two platforms and a platform here enclosed in like a rectangle. And there would be a ball bouncing around, like almost like a Brick Breaker, right? And anytime the ball bounced, some voice was counting either up to 100 or from 100 down. And I would get more and more like just so anxious and scared as that countdown was getting closer to completion. And by the time that it either hit 100 or 0, I don't remember which way it counted, I would wake up like sweating, right? I would like be panting. I would be so terrified. I would have to sleep with the light on that night, right? Like, and once again, I don't know where that came from. Probably playing too many video games as a kid, right? But I have no clue where that irrational fear came from, because like nothing inherently from that dream was scary. So it was probably some subconscious stuff, right? Just making me scared or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's your fun irrational bonus dream. So yeah, I don't know. So I want to keep this video short and sweet, right? And so I just, wanted to make some weird fun video. I don't know. Definitely let me know if you guys like these types of almost like story time videos or something. Definitely the point of this channel is to have so much just random different fun stuff, whether it's, random HoldenOnHere streams that we do, like the Pokemon Smash and Pass, or, the political content that we do every now and then. But I just want a bunch of random fun stuff, right? As a creative outlet for me and for those of you guys to get a different side of me that's not just like playing video games all the time. Right? As much as I love games, right? I mean, there'll be times I stream for 7 hours and then I go play some more TF2 later that night, so that's not going away anywhere. But yeah, so if you're watching, let me know if what some of your childhood irrational fears were, or any irrational fears you guys still have now, maybe as a bonus round. If you have any irrational scary dreams that you guys have had, definitely let me know. Yeah, let me know if you like this type of video. You want to see more, any ideas for any other content you might want to see in the future on this HoldenOnHere channel. Also, shout out to Wendigoon. I'm wearing this shirt. Love this Wendigoon merch. Love Wendigoon, and thought this would be perfect to wear while we talked about irrational fears, right, or something like that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're you definitely are having to watch this after the fact. This is not live content. But yeah, consider subscribing, ringing that bell to try to get the HoldenOnHere channel caught up with the Time to Grind channel and subscribers. There'll be more content, more fun HoldenOnHere stuff. I'm sure there'll be a playlist. Yeah, if you're gonna be tackling your irrational fears on your own, then I wish you guys luck, and I'll see you all next time.